Hello everyone, and welcome to Apigee Online Meetup. My name is Kiki, and I'll be your host today. We are live from Google London headquarters, and we are very happy to have you here with us today. After the great success that we have on the two latest events, we are today hosting our third Apigee Online Meetup that has been designed especially for EMEA. Today the agenda is packed with a lot to cover and plenty of opportunities for you to participate. So grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's get started. Today we're going to talk about API as a product mindset. We will start with a brief introduction led by Oliver, who will tell us what it means exactly to build APIs as products. Then we're going to have our two customers, Jennie from EE and BT, and Andrea from Swisscom, telling us a bit of their approach to API as a product and how it helped their business growth. So before we start, three important things. First, ask questions. The second is, we want your feedback, so please be ready to give us a feedback filling on the Google form. And third, let's share this and keep this conversation on social. So share your comments with the Apigee, with the hashtag Apigee Online Meetup. And let's get started. So Ollie, over to you.
Thanks very much, Kiki. So good morning and welcome back after the summer break. In the last webinar, we talked about stop thinking about APIs as technology. Not focusing on APIs as just as an integration technology. And in that, we introduced the concept of APIs as products. And in this webinar, we've got the opportunity to dive into that and explore that with some great customer stories. So what does it mean to build API products? It's really important that the business not only understand what APIs are, but also own, leverage, and iterate these digital assets, these critical assets, over their entire lifetime. So we'll dive into what this means in just a moment, but there's lots more additional information. We've just recently produced an ebook, and those details will be shared at the end of the webinar. So I think, just to kind of distill what we're talking about here, we'll focus on kind of three key pillars of this API product mindset. So outside in, speed to market, and iterative delivery. Anybody familiar with the world of Agile will probably be extremely familiar with these three pillars. And with outside in, it's about getting really close to your API consumers and consumption and the business need. Lego have this fantastic phrase from their product management community of camping with customers. And I think that's exactly what any product manager should be doing, let alone an API product manager. It's about being data-driven, so having rich insights at your fingertips to know what to build from scratch, but also how to evolve those digital assets over time, those APIs over time. And optimizing for consumption. And I can't actually emphasize that last bullet point enough. If you compare this to perhaps an integration mindset that is very much focused on integration, this API product mindset is very much about optimizing for consumption. Speed to market, so delivering fast, minimal viable products, version zeros of APIs. There's no reason that, for APIs not to be delivered with the same agile delivery that you would expect to see in another digital proposition, such as your mobile app or your website. Remove friction and optimize for repeatability. We'll go into this in more detail, but what are the barriers of engagement for me to do business with your organization? And enable your consumers through self-service. So again, about those frictions of engagement, can an internal engineer or an external partner easily discover, easily sign up, and easily explore your API portfolio? Iterative delivery. So products, not projects. These are stable assets managed by stable teams over the lifetime of that digital product. It's really important to really focus on demonstrating value early. It ties again into that iterative delivery and that MVP culture. So get something out there, get your consumers using it, and evolve over time. And ensure that in that process you are measuring success. So think early about how you're going to measure success from the individual API, the API product, and indeed your API initiative as a whole. So let's just make sure that we're all level set on what we mean by outside in. Certainly something that Apigee talks about a lot. So where we've come from and the world of integration, typically you see an inside out mindset. That is focused on the back end, focused on existing functionality and data and exposing that. And we saw well-intentioned but ultimately failed projects, expensive projects where massive amounts of services were exposed but often underutilized or difficult to use. Outside in is very much driving everything from this left-hand side so that we're not making any compromises on consumption. What does that mean? It means that as a developer, I have a fantastic developer experience, that I can find your developer portal, easily sign up, and easily explore what you offer. But also critically, it means I'm making no compromises at all on the experience that we're trying to build for the end consumer, the end user. So typically in an inside-out world, the experience itself was often compromised by these complex services. With an outside-in mentality, we're making sure that that experience is not compromised in any way. So what do we mean by these APIs as products? It's still very much a bit of a concept. It's really good to think about them as a package, a combination of one or many APIs delivered with something that is potentially targeted to a particular type of user. So to bring that to life, you may have a partner that is a fintech. So perhaps not so much money, wants to do some sort of free tier, perhaps low number of calls. And so there'll be a package that is appropriate for that type of partner. You may also have a critically strategic enterprise scale partner that will have a very different demand around monetization, will have much higher levels of expectation of service level agreements, might well have much more rich requirements around persisting data. You know, perhaps your more basic product is read-only, and for your enterprise products, you want something much more rich and verbose. As with any product you might lift off a shelf in a store, you expect it to be easy to discover, have lots of documentation, easy to understand, and example use cases would be expected. To bring that to life just a little bit more, let's use Lego. So, you know, if APIs are your Lego bricks, when you walk into a Lego store and you want to see what's on offer, you're not focused on the Lego bricks themselves. You will be navigating that store based on the packaged products that Lego offer that are obviously combined of these multiple building blocks. And so you'll find your particular niche product area and take that product and compose whatever you want to build. Let's also talk about the product manager, a really important role. Product management within this region is certainly still a fairly immature capability for many organizations. It's often where many compromises are made as well. And I really still like this definition that the product manager is a CEO. Somebody who is resilient, has a commercial head, who can lead a digital product autonomously. So somebody who owns the roadmap and the prioritization of that digital product. Somebody who has deep insights into current usage and future demands. How will they know about future demand? You know, that's quite a hard thing. Well, somebody who is very much nurturing the ecosystem. So really working very closely with existing users and potentially future users. It's a commercial head because we're looking for somebody also that can explore new business models, perhaps new business partnerships, evaluate, test these new partnerships before rolling them out. And ultimately being really obsessive about delivering simple and valuable APIs. And this is hard to do. So product management is very much about building the right thing, not building the thing right. So, your technical communities, particularly in this fantastically exciting world of microservices and containers and DevOps, may well be focused on building the thing right. That's no bad thing, but it's critical that you are building the right thing. And that is why product management and running APIs as products is so critical. So what does it mean if you don't do this? You invariably see exposed complexity. So that might mean APIs that are extremely verbose because they're trying to satisfy unknown future demand. You'll invariably see slow adoption, whether that's internal and external. And in this modern world of typically a business requiring to engage with external ecosystems, this is an incredible this really does disable the organization to participate in ecosystems. You will invariably see repeated, somewhat similar looking APIs, which of course adds organizational complexity. And you'll see often a lack of ownership, which is pretty terrifying when it comes to APIs that represents a core capability of an organization. And ultimately, you will see rot. If you're not feeding and watering these digital assets over time with stable teams, your products, your APIs are rotting. So, products, not projects. And more detail later, but those 3 pillars, don't forget, outside in, speed to market, and iterative delivery. So I'm very pleased to be joined by Jennie and Andrea, and over to Jennie first.
Thanks, Ollie. I work for EE and BT Consumer, and my job is, the job of my team is to monetize our APIs and take out to market and to our external partners. So at EE, absolutely core to our business strategy is partnership. We don't have an ambition. We don't have an ambition to build everything ourselves. And I know we're here today to talk about APIs, but our partnership strategy wouldn't be possible without APIs. That is really what's enabling an awful lot of what we want to do in market with partners. If we step back 5 years, not everybody will know the history of EE, but it was formed as a joint venture in the UK between Orange and T-Mobile. And that brought with it lots of complexity, 2 sets of network architecture, 2 sets of teams, 2 sets of offerings in market, or 3 sets of offering in market when we brought EE together. And that made us very difficult for third parties to work with. It was a very complex story to try and tell them and to ask them to do different things for our different brands. It also meant that we had a very congested roadmap and only a limited budget with which to do new things. And every new activity with partners would be a new roadmap activity. Those are annual processes. It involved CapEx, and it was very, very complex, which ultimately limited our ability to do more with third parties. And it was at that point that we looked at this, we looked at what we could do to solve these problems, and we considered whether we should add another technical integration into our business and into this already complex landscape. And actually that's when our product teams and our tech teams went to market and started the journey that we had with Apigee. And what we did was wrap our legacy architecture into a cloud-based, or inside a cloud-based API layer. So on the slide is a view of our catalogue. It's actually a couple of years old. There's an awful lot more APIs that we already have in this, but it illustrates quite nicely this mentality that we have of growing it all the time. Behind it, we have a virtual team. So we have a virtual team that we've formed across the business. We've got developers, we've got product experts, we've got sales guys, we've got kind of the full gambit of people within that virtual API community. But it's worth saying that some of those sit within our marketing organisation. So both my team, who do the monetisation piece, and our product piece sit within our marketing piece. So we're right at the heart of the business, and that has been key to our success. Our product team manage the portfolio and all the documentation, and everything we do is built for reuse, and it's built partner first. So we try very hard not to build things for specific projects. We build core capabilities that we can then reuse. And we work closely with partners in pulling up those APIs, making sure that they work right. We put things into Sandbox. They might not be fully ready at that point. We test it with partners. We get feedback. We can then release to market, or we can take back and do more work on it. And it's a process that never ends. We have APIs that we took to market a couple of years ago, but we're still tweaking, we're still refining, and we're still working on it. So we very much see our APIs as living things. We can onboard a partner into the Sandbox in just 6 hours. We can onboard new partners into production in 2 weeks. And generally, we don't need to touch the roadmap, and we can scale. So, we have an awful lot of flexibility, which isn't the same across, our sort of other parts of our business. So that's given us a really kind of agile way of working, both within our sales teams, but also in our development teams. The stuff that we were doing with partners, we also realised that this agility and this simplicity could also benefit our core business. So actually, within a relatively quick space of time with working with Apigee, within the first year or so, we grew out the core team and we drove adoption internally to the point where building on our API gateway became our default integration design. So APIs underpin now an awful lot of what we do as a core business. They underpin our digital estate, they underpin our website, they underpin our self-service app, but also core offerings. So on the slide you'll see a campaign we did a few years ago with Apple Music, with Britney Spears. An API sat underneath this. And the benefit from my team is the byproduct of all of our business CapEx investment is APIs. That isn't additional, it's core, and that means that there's new APIs dropping all the time. My team could go on holiday for 6 months and we'd come back and the catalogue would be bigger. So we're not the only people driving API creation, and that means that there's new build happening all the time. And it might be that those things aren't exactly right for our customers, but we might be 90% of the way there, and we can reskin something, we can complete that last bit, and it gives us a speed to market that is incredible. In terms of how our partners access our APIs, we have a developer portal. There's a picture of it on the screen. It includes a sandbox environment for them to play in. In principle, we keep our APIs open for all. We're really keen to see our partners innovate and to see what they can do with them. We don't have all the answers. We want to hear what they want, what they can do with the APIs that we've already got, or what they would like us to do differently. But there are also things that where we might have to have additional controls in place. So we do have some things that are under the counter. Some of those may stay there forever. There may be things that we have there as we test and as we learn, and those could be things around location services or business or things that there are business sensitivities around. So it may not be the API aspect, but it may be how we want to handle it as a product in market that mean that we want to kind of restrict access. But it's all there if we want it to be. We can pull up those things as and when we need to for partners. And again, the developer portal is something that we evolve all the time. This was our version 1. We'll be taking it into version 2. This is stuff that we learn and we grow and we change it as time goes by. Our original rationale of wanting to work with partners remains absolutely at the core of our strategy, and if anything, it's become an even bigger part of it. So what we're really focused on now is building scale. We really want to capitalise on what we've delivered so far and deliver significant further business growth. A few months ago, EE and BT launched our partnerships portal to the market, and there's a screenshot on the slide. there's 6 key areas covered in this presentation. It's all about how we want to work with third parties. API connectivity is one of those things, but actually API technology underpins other areas on here. So we might not call it out under the charge to mobile section or on the content section, but API technology and the capabilities that we have with it absolutely sits under an awful lot of what we're doing with partners. And just to kind of come full circle, actually we're now in a situation where EE was purchased by BT a couple of years ago. And so we're again looking at an integration of 3 brands, and we're again looking at the complexity that involves. But we're in a much better position, I would say, to deal with that now because of the learnings and the journey that we've gone on, and the capability and technology that we have within our API portfolio. There will bring challenges. There are things that we need to learn, and we're having to again evangelise to the business and to the new parts of the business about what this can do. But the really exciting thing for my team is that ultimately bringing these 3 businesses together will mean more APIs and more that we can work with our partners on and offer to our end consumers. Thank you. Andrea, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Jennie. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Zulian, and I'm a Senior Product Manager for Swisscom. Swisscom is the major telecommunication company in Switzerland, and I joined the API program exactly in the moment where the product mindset stream was starting. The Swisscom story with Apigee and with the API program started in 2013 with the so-called API program, with a team of people organized as a factory, and all the people were focused on, as Oliver said before, on doing the things right instead of the right things. And during that period, 2 years, we produced a lot of solutions, and the result was not really satisfying. What happened is that we understood that we had to change more. We have really to change our DNA. And instead of building solutions that are somehow copies of the existing integration services in a RESTful API flavor, we understood that we have to generate value for the customers and for the partners and for all the stakeholders requiring our assets. So we did an additional step in the direction of product mindset, but we had a very big help from our organizational structure. Swisscom decided to be more competitive in a digital economy, to organize all the internal organization in an agile way. So in 2015, we started with, inspired by the Spotify approach, we started with a tribe and squads organization. It was, of course, our flavor of the Spotify organization. We wanted to have one product owner or technical lead that was driving the technical aspect of the APIs, and then a bunch of DevOps engineers. And of course, introducing also the product mindset, we decided to have the product manager, one product manager as the head of the team of the squad to drive the business aspect of the APIs. And of course, what was really crucial for us is a nice license to fail. So small squads, maximum 10, 12 people, with the aim of producing value for customers and partners. And of course, this brings also a certain level of risk. The fact that really changed our approach and really helped us. The North Star is that we understood that the API is not the interface to the system or to the asset, but it's the interface to the value proposition. So we started to talk about VPI, value proposition interfaces, instead of APIs. Also to detach the terms from a very deep technical understanding. Our organization was really focused on technology. The IT, we were IT people, everybody, focused on producing software. So this small change really helped us to produce something new. Of course, the temptation to start with new disruptive products, having the freedom to produce whatever we wanted, was very big. And of course, we didn't start with the ambition to disrupt, I don't know, the food delivery business with blockchain technology, accessible via APIs. But we started to look at our customers, existing customers and existing partners, trying to discover their pain points and trying to deliver digital products that are able really to support them in the one that we immediately recognize being the digital economy. An important aspect is that for us, was clear that the digital economy requires a very, very big change. Digital economy means that we are not anymore in a brand-centric market where you push your brand, you push your name, and you expect to attract customers. But the digital economy consists of customer-centric ecosystems. So the important part was, and the aim was, to be part of those ecosystems, supporting the customers in their own daily needs. So what we were able to produce are what we call API products or digital products that fundamentally have 5 key benefits. So the first one is, of course, the benefits for Swisscom, is that the digital products delivered in the customer-centric ecosystems are generating retention, lock-in, what's so-called lock-in effects. And of course, via automation is reducing also the costs. And this kind of approach also brings Swisscom in a position of leadership in the market in Switzerland. Of course, in most of the cases, but I would say in all the cases, the approach also increased the revenues, and as part of the overall IT strategy is also generating decoupling effect. So we are going to decouple the technical aspect from the business aspect. And how we do it with an API product management methodology that we implemented in our team. So we have cross-functional BITS DevOps teams that are able to deliver value in an iterative way. So this is the standard lean approach, lean build measure. And of course, it's this is at very high level. The details are very hard to tell in few minutes. But one important aspect is what you said before also, Oliver, is start with an MVP. Maybe this is a little bit disruptive, but we realize that we don't have to start with an MVP, because the API technology is a good technology to start with a prototype. A prototype compared with an MVP has a development cost that is ridiculous. But if done in the proper way and supported with the proper documentation, where you show to the customers why you are producing this product, what kind of problems you want to solve, and you show the prototype under the form of technical documentation, you have a higher possibility to succeed, and of course you mitigate the risks a lot. One of the examples, when I say that we didn't focus on the really on the disruptive products, but on what we call adjacent products, so products that are built to support existing Swisscom core products. An example is smart catalogs. Looking around, talking with salespeople, talking with product managers from other organizations, we realized that there was a gap that we had to fill. In the digital economy, we had to provide a way to support the automation and also to give to the customers and partners the opportunity to easily adopt our products, be more efficient, and keep under control their own Swisscom subscriptions and services. So, where you can find our product is on our digital marketplace, Swisscom digital marketplace at digital.swisscom.com. You can find there all our products, and of course we support also our organization with tools, with test automation and service virtualization and other kind of things that are pretty technical. So,
Andrea, thank you very much indeed. In fact, thank you very much to both of you. I think, I hope you would agree, actually those are great two examples of organisations really leading the way when it comes to their API initiative. And so here's the opportunity to drive into more detail with a panel discussion. I'm very much again reminding everybody to submit your own questions. So there should be a blue button on your screen. Please do start submitting those, and we'll get to those shortly. I think it's been really interesting to see the maturity of that API product mindset within the telco industry. Thank you very much both for your introductions. And I guess with the proliferation of mobile devices now, telcos are at that unique opportunity to offer kind of key services around location, identity, and payment. I mean, just to bring it to life for those that are not so familiar with your vertical, what sort of services and products are you offering to your API consumers?
So you mentioned payment. I think charge to mobile is a really good example. It's something that has existed in market for a long time. It came from the days of the Crazy Frog and the ringtone industry 15 years ago. It's something that's gone through a number of evolutions during that time. That was our test bed for our third-party business with APIs. So we migrated our charge to mobile business or a big part of it onto our API gateway, and that's been a really invaluable learning experience for us. And we've also seen what we could really do with it. So it's enabled us to transform that business. We have undergone a kind of massive change with it in the last few years. Through information that we have from the gateway, we've been able to tackle problems quicker, to get our complaints down, to improve things like bill descriptions, to improve the data that we give partners, and that's enabled us to grow that industry further. We've also launched new things in that area. We were the first to market last year with Apple in terms of operator billing in the UK, and the speed to market was purely driven by our API capability. So that enabled us to be first in the UK, and it was absolutely key. We couldn't have done it without being able to build those APIs and the speed that we could do it. So that's been absolutely invaluable. But it's driving learning back into the other things that we're doing. So there's absolutely overlap when you look at kind of identity and those other things. That's our second phase of business. We're looking at API attributes, as we're calling it, or API connectivity. Within that, you've got things like identity, authentication. We've just gone to market with that. Actually, what's held it up has been the business processes, getting the business sign-off, building contracts with data. You can't underestimate the complexity of doing that. In many ways, the technology is easy, but what you do with it and how you manage it is more complex. And that's a journey we've had to take the business on. But we've got a really exciting pipeline now of APIs ready to go, of partnership opportunities, and we're really ready to ramp up. So we haven't built one API, taken it to market, and then sort of seen what's happened, and then gone back into our business and spent another 8 months building a new API. We've got APIs ready to land, week after week. We've got partners ready to connect, and we are getting the scale that we have the ambition to deliver.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you. Andrea, same question to you about services and products.
Yeah, we have several flavors of services of products, digital products based on the target customers. So depending on the fact that target customer is an end customer or a partner or an internal organization, we offer internal products. Of course, we have a lot. Internal products are products that are offering access to our internal assets in an easy way, in an intuitive way. We have examples like payment APIs that are used internally, or APIs that are offering access to customer base or to other kind of internal assets. And then we have some business products that are focused on satisfying the partner's needs. I have in mind logistics. So we have a logistics product to support partners in the delivery of the Swisscom material. And then we have, of course, the proper business products that are supporting end customers and also strategic partners like fleet management, the ones that are in the fleet management business. With these kind of products, we offer several kind of capabilities from the identity verification based on mobile phone to, like in the case of smart catalogs, we offer provisioning, inventory and reporting capabilities on existing Swisscom products for existing Swisscom customers.
Okay, thanks very much. I've now got the Crazy Frog theme tune stuck in my head, and it's. Oh, thank you. So we talked about just then sort of things like identity and payments. Just to kind of bring again this concept to life, are these API products in their own right, or are they only really of value when they're composed with one or many other APIs?
It's a mixture, I would say. We absolutely have a charging API that a partner can consume. You need various things around it. So network ID, that same network ID API we're using within our API business separately. So there's other uses for it. So by building those in a granular way, we can reuse some of those. And then there's other things that we're developing on top. So for our app stores, we've developed eligibility APIs, and we're seeing that that's increasing the conversion rates for customers. So we're actively now looking at how can we roll that out across our wider charge to mobile community. Should we ask them to use it? Could we actually incorporate that in a charge version 2 API? So it's a constant process, and I would say the answer is different every time depending on the use case and what we're trying to do. But we learn constantly. I mean, when we talk to partners now, we don't really talk about APIs. We go in and say, what are your business challenges? What are the challenges you see? What are the issues that you have? And then we look at how we can solve those, and often APIs is the answer to that. But that's really what we ask, because many times they will say to us, I want this API, I want to do this specific thing. But if you get under the skin of that, it may be that they have a completely different challenge, that they think that that's the answer to it. But actually, we might have something already that we have for other partners that we could roll out for them and solve their problems.
Great, thank you. Andrea?
Yeah, our APIs they have the need to provide value individually. So whenever we produce something, it must bring a value for the customer. So you can imagine that, of course, using more products in combination, you can achieve better results, and you can make and resolve more complex problems. But the minimum term is the product. So the product generates value. The identity product helps you to identify one person, and it has a value by itself. So we expose it also standalone.
Okay, thank you. Now, you both work for large, complex organizations. Do you have multiple product owners? And if so, how do you organize yourselves around that complex landscape of key data and key services?
So we do have multiple product owners, and I guess it comes back to this idea of a virtual community, but I think it also comes back to our product team being absolutely at the core of things. They have an overview of the whole business. So we have product specialists on things like identity. We work closely with them on the API, the identity APIs. You know, we've created that kind of core of knowledge, and that is a key kind of it's a key linchpin, I would say, in this whole program. But outside of that, you've then got this wider kind of virtual team. So that's enabled us to manage it. You know, I'm not saying it doesn't have its challenges at times, and I think especially as the scale of this grows, and we see it now as we're working with BT and with PlusNet, we start that whole journey again. You know, we have to kind of create that mindset and that core knowledge of how we do things. But I think absolutely having that kind of heartland for your API business is key.
Great, thanks.
Also, we have several product managers managing several teams. And what we do is keeping the heads aligned with the institutional meetings on one side. So we have the product management table or product management guild where we keep aligned all the product managers on the evolution of every single product. We do also a little bit of product portfolio management there to be sure that the products on which we are working are not overlapping with other products inside the organization. And of course, we share our experiences, we share our methodologies, because every team is independent and is able to work completely autonomously. So this kind of interactions and alignment is absolutely fundamental.
Great, thank you. So you both actually in your introductions talked a little bit about that life cycle of going into production. Jennie, you talked from a consumption point of view, partners onboarding, leveraging sandboxes. You talked, Andrea, about the productionization of prototyping actually before MVPs, which I thought was awesome. Could you perhaps just go into that a little bit more detail? I mean, Jennie first.
Certainly for what we take out with partners, we try and get something out to them as quickly as possible. That's just the way we work. You know, we don't necessarily talk about minimum viable products and all of those things, but that is essentially what we're doing. I think, you know, we see it sometimes when we talk to other telcos. There's a habit to bunker down in a dark room and kind of, you know, solve the world and kind of think this is what partners want, this is what banks will want, or financial institutions, and actually, you know, that you can go wrong. You can spend an awful lot of time going in the wrong direction or not really understanding, you know, what they want. So for us, our partners are absolutely key in the development of APIs and what we're doing. So that's it's a combined process. You know, we listen to them from day one. We ask them what problems that, you know, they have to solve. We work with them on the designs. We get them to test it in Sandbox as quickly as possible. You know, we use their feedback. We might make changes on the back of that. Probably we'll talk to multiple partners as well, so we'll get combined feedback. And that's a continually evolving process. I don't think there's really a point where we go, this is no longer an MVP. This is absolutely our kind of go-to-market product. You know, coming back to Charge to Mobile, that is that is so established for us, and yet it is a constant evolution. And I've just recruited a new member of the team whose job is to really look at that and look at how do we drive that, how do we get that kind of every grain of improvement in it ultimately comes back to the numbers that we make. So if we can increase conversion rates by 1%, you know, that has a huge impact on our figures, and that's what the APIs really give us that capability to do.
Great. I'll definitely want to come back to that evolution in a moment. And Drea, there's that sort of same question about that life cycle of API products.
Yeah, specifically in our case, in the case of my team, we have a clear approach. So we have those 3 steps where starting from hopefully a good idea, we have creative sessions together involving engineers, product management, and sometimes also some prospect customers. And then we start with the strategy part. In the strategy part, we define what kind of products we want to deliver, if it's a disruptive product or if it's an adjacent product. Unfortunately, we are not yet in the situation to produce core products for Swisscom, but this is our aim. And then we start to work also on the stakeholders management, trying to understand who inside the organization can support our initiative, and also a little bit of market analysis to see also how the competition is approaching the specific topic that we discover. And then there is the execution part. In the execution part, we are really, really methodic. We don't start to implement anything if we don't have first the prototype that is a good prototype. So it's a prototype of a good product. If we don't have most of the cases, of course, sometimes we take also some risks. is unavoidable. But we don't produce anything if it's not valuable. And then it's a cycle, so we start again to rethink our productization process, and we think about new features, or we rethink about the produced features based on data, based on the adoption, based on the reaction of our early adopters. So is a living machine that is going ahead and ahead.
Great analogy. So, okay, so Jennie, you talked about this evolution of what must be such a critical API, charge to mobile, when you're talking about changing such a fundamental service that I'm sure is used by so many different partners.
Yep.
That must make a few people slightly nervous. How do you manage that evolution? What sort of things do you consider?
So it's something that we do hand in hand with our partners, and there's different ways. I mean, we're still learning with this as well. So we have made some changes to the API in Life. We've also, in other cases, created a new API and asked them to switch across, or given them the option to switch across. And that might be where we go back to kind of showing the proof points that it makes a difference. So there's a whole combination of things that we do and ways that we tackle it. So I don't think there's any right answer to that question, but it's something that we've tried different ways of doing.
Great, thanks. Now you both kind of talked about this product management community. To get that holistic view of demand across your organisation, internally, let alone externally, at scale is really hard. What other things could you perhaps recommend to help deal with getting that holistic view and insight of demand?
For sure, to apply a lean approach and involve early adopters from the very beginning. It helps a lot to try to understand if you're doing the right thing. And having the focus on producing value for your target customer. So I think that a crucial part is to have clear in mind which is the target audience for your product.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And also, Jennie, in your introduction, you had that fantastic dashboard demonstrating measurement, which I absolutely love. How do you? This is a question to both of you. How do you measure the impact of your APIs and your API initiative?
I think probably actually not with the dashboard, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We love the dashboard. It's great to see that stuff's coming through. As I said, that's kind of an old version of it. But really in the business, it's all about proof points. So that's how we've kind of leveraged it. It's really in the Britney Spears campaign, or it's in different things. It's what we can do for the business. So we don't tend to talk about APIs as such. People do tend to glaze over when we kind of mention that word. So actually it's really about what we can do and proving those proof points, or solving our business problems, getting into the digital community. They got on board, they've now kind of rolled it out for their digital estate, and all the time that kind of creates this community that understand it and the appetite for the business grows. So that's been kind of absolutely key for us in really driving that momentum in the business. But if I don't think people would say, yep, we've had a mindset change, yes, we're all about APIs, still 99% of our business would say, well, what's that?
Yeah.
But if you start talking about what we've done with it, then I think people absolutely see the benefit.
Fantastic. Business impact. Andrea.
Okay, starting from the assumption that being part of a customer-centric ecosystem is already a success for the digital economy. But as product managers in our organization, we use a nice tool that is the goals-oriented roadmap. So all the features that we want, and of course, communication is crucial. Communication with the stakeholders, with management, with customers, with the team. When we define a set of features that we want to bring in production, we define in advance also the KPIs and the metrics based on the business goals, of course. And all those figures are agreed among all the organization. So at the end, we know that a specific release is a successful release if we meet the KPIs.
Thank you. So we're getting close to the interactive Q&A, so we'll get to that in a second. But just kind of to wrap up, your organisations have extremely valuable data and functionality that are great, obvious candidates for monetisation. How do you ensure in that life cycle of getting things into production, often with a sense of urgency, that you are definitely capturing those commercial opportunities, Andrea?
Yeah, we understood that it's almost impossible to try to capture all the opportunities that we have around. So the important aspect for us is to start on processes and services that can make the life of our customers easier. So if we see the opportunity to improve an existing product, so adjacent product again, I think that we can really bet on it from the day one. So it's a no-brainer. That's something that we can improve, and there is a space for a nice API product.
Great, thank you.
I mean, that's the role of my team in our organisation, and I think, actually that would be, I would guess, my recommendation, have a team of people that are focused on partners, bring in expertise from outside. Within my team, there are very few people that have come across from our core business. There are people that absolutely understand charge to mobile, there are people that understand banking, there are people that speak that language, and their job is to go out, communicate with that market and bring back that knowledge and drive that business. So I'd say that's absolutely key. And I often get asked, which vertical should we go after? What should be next? And I think, actually we limit ourselves by picking just one or two. We talk a lot about planting seeds. We have a lot of conversations going. We spread ourselves as thinly as possible across multiple kind of opportunities. And then as things kind of get moving, then the team will get behind that, those particular opportunities. But our ears are always open. We're always out there in market. We're networking. We're trying to kind of look for what's that next big thing. And that might be something a year or 2 years away, but then we'll start with the technical build. We'll start with getting the business ready in terms of kind of looking to sell that data. So we're constantly sort of driving towards that pipeline of opportunities.
Fabulous. And I think in that world of ecosystems where organisations are going beyond their own vertical, really important point there about you yourselves becoming experts at in those different verticals. Over to you, Kiki.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, guys. It's a great discussion, and I hope that you guys enjoyed. We have some questions from the audience, so let's take a look at that. All right. So the first question is, in my business, APIs are very much considered as something that is owned by IT. And it's the digital consumer teams that are owned by the business. How can I educate the business around the importance of APIs for their success?
Who'd like to go for that?
I guess it's something that I mean, we hear it when we talk to other telcos. I think we've been lucky enough not to be in that position because we have this core within marketing. So I think that's definitely something that's worth pushing for. But I think, again, it comes back to that proof point piece. If you haven't got the proof points in your own business, if you can bring those in from stuff that's happening in other markets, if you can talk to other telcos, if you can use that, that's also something that we've done, and it really helps to bring it alive. So I think that's a good tactic that you can try.
And of course, it's led by marketing, which I think is just absolutely phenomenal. Andrea?
Probably in your organization, APIs are considered as a yet another integration layer. That's why we have this kind of dynamics. But I think it's, generally speaking, it's good. We can have we have internal products that are doing exactly the same. We're exposing the Swisscom assets to other departments that are building nice products on top of it. The important part for me is to make the next step, because there is the opportunity to also to involve the business, so stakeholders management, and push the API products at the next level.
Okay, great. And I think APIs are fairly intangible. They're technical by nature. It's actually demonstrating business impact that ultimately will get the business excited, right?
All right. Thanks for your answers. Let's go to the next one. So, what happens if a partner or consumer wants an API which doesn't exist yet? Who pays for it?
So for me, there would be, I guess, two parts to this answer. This is where it comes back to us moving our digital estate across. So I'm very lucky now that we have hundreds of APIs. So that makes building new APIs much cheaper. If you can use your business and your CapEx roadmap and your core projects to build new APIs, that makes everything easier in future, and it makes everything cheaper. So that absolutely is fundamental. I also have some functional budget which I can use to spend on new APIs. So if it's something that we can reuse with other partners, generally we will pay for it. There may be, if somebody wants something very bespoke, that might be a different conversation. But I think having that functional pot is absolutely key. If I want to change something, we've had a recent example with our crediting API. We need to do a bit of back-end development. It might only cost £20,000 or £30,000, but actually getting that onto the company's CapEx roadmap, against huge projects, it's never going to work. So you've got to have that ability to make those payments and pay for those things yourself.
Awesome. Andrea?
Great.
I would say that for sure depends by the customer. If it's an important customer, I think that in your organization you will find a way to finance the API. But an important part is to avoid to have a tailor-made API for a specific customer. This is something that we should avoid as product managers. So I think that is the role of the product manager to understand if it's a good opportunity, if it's tangible needs from several customers, and in that case we'll starting the product management machine to find also the fundings for.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and we have a last one from Vando Batista that is asking about API monetization. So how to better start monetizing APIs and how to charge customers or users?
So, we really built on the back of a process that we had today. I think if you look at what you do in your business, there probably is third-party operations, whether it is something, charge to mobile is something that is established in multiple markets. That was absolutely our start point. We're not reinventing the wheel. We might have evolved it, but I think if you can find that kind of stuff, it's a very similar model. You have aggregators again, the pricing tends to be transactional. There's a lot of similarities. So I think if you can leverage something existing in your business, that really helps to get it moving.
Okay, thanks very much. It's a big topic. Andrea, do you want to jump in? I'd be better to move on as well. Great, thank you.
Yeah? All right. So thank you. Thanks, guys, for the great discussion. That was really interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed as well. And we have, for you to learn more about API as a product, we have two pieces that are super interesting. So one is our ebook that will talk about how critical it is to have the API product mindset to accelerate your business, and a microsite that is fully dedicated to the topic, where you will find concepts, strategies, customer stories, and testimonials. So we highly recommend you to take a look at that. It will be sent afterwards on a follow-up email. Thank you very much for watching, and see you all next time. Thanks.